Come on now, fellas! We've got to answer the bell. Now let's go!
Good Wednesday afternoon. Welcome in. It's Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Chris Yow and Maurice Patton here with you, and we come to you from the Lee Company studio right here in Columbia. Great show lined up today. A lot of interesting topics, considering that the only thing that took place yesterday in the world of sports was Major League Baseball and the WNBA.
Well, in a minor little announcement.
Announcement, sure, but
As far as actual games being
the only
played,
games played were Major League Baseball and WNBA, and that was it. So if you were trying to find a time to reorganize your sock drawer, yesterday would have been a good one.
Yesterday was it, yeah.
And if you missed it, wait till next year, I guess. Oh, man. We do have a lot of fun stuff to talk about, though, because it's Wednesday, so we'll talk with our primary NASCAR analyst.
Our first string.
Yeah, first string starter. It's
You,
Heather.
you really need to hope Bernard's not
watching.
Yeah. Because he said it's on site with you.
It's already, yeah, it's on site. It's all good. It's all good. But Heather Williams will be back, and she joins us today. We may actually talk about we're going to have to talk about a couple of Kansas City things with her. One, the White House trip, because Travis Kelce is off the rails. And two, apparently the Kansas City Royals are fire selling their bullpen. So,
Oh, she's not going to be happy about that.
It's nuts. So
Yeah.
we'll get into some Kansas City sports with her as well, but NASCAR is obviously front and center there. And then Jen Schroeder will join us to talk about tonight's Game 1 and the Championship Series and Women's College World Series. And Jen's former UCLA catcher and founder of a really unique situation, kind of it's like a Nike camp type thing. But anyway, the package deal is her company, and looking forward to talking to her a little bit about that. Got some Braves, of course, and Wild and Wacky Wednesday, the weirdest and wildest news from across the world. I have scoured the internet, and we may just have to go back to the backhoe at the airport. I don't know. We've still got questions about that.
We did not get nearly as deep in that as I would have liked. So
the backhoe story might come back up. I don't know. But before we do anything else, we do need to get you some results in today's schedule. We can do that on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
baseball scores from last night at the major league level. The Braves scored 5 unanswered runs in a 6-4 victory over the Mets. It was Toronto with a 5-1 victory over Houston. Cincinnati defeated the Los Angeles Dodgers 9-8. Milwaukee with a 4-3 win over Baltimore. Texas 6, St. Louis 4. It was the Angels 7, the Cubs 4, and the Mariners with a 4-1 win over the Padres. In minor league baseball action on Tuesday, doubleheader.
No. Game 2 was today, sorry.
Doubleheader today.
Yeah.
Okay. So yesterday, the Sounds defeated Jacksonville 4-1. Today, in game 1 of a doubleheader, it was Jacksonville 4, the Sounds 1, and game 2 is coming up.
Ongoing, I believe. Pretty sure.
There's a second game today.
Yes, I think that game is ongoing. Not entirely sure what the score is, though. WNBA last night, as we told you, it's the only other thing going. Aces, 90. Sun, 84. Anytime Connecticut goes down, it's a good day. Chicago Sky outlasted the Indiana Fever 108-103 in overtime, and the Seattle Storm with a 66-63 win over the LA Sparks. Today, down in Lawrenceburg, you can catch the Lawrence County Jaybirds with a doubleheader. They host Ardmore Post 49 at 5 o'clock. Major League Baseball action, the Mariners are at the Padres at 3:10. Astros at the Blue Jays at 6:07, and the Reds hosting the Dodgers at 6:10.
6:20, the Mets and Braves continue their series at Truist Field at 6:40. Baltimore is at Milwaukee. St. Louis is at Texas at 7:05, and the Cubs and Angels play out on the West Coast at 8:10. Again, in minor league baseball, the Sounds and Jacksonville are in game 2 of their doubleheader. Sounds leading 3-0. Women's College World Series Championship Series game 1 starts at 7 tonight on ESPN. The Seminoles of Florida State, the Sooners of Oklahoma. And again, we'll be talking more to Jen Schroeder later in the show about what has transpired and what will transpire. Game 3 of the NBA Finals comes back to the East as Denver plays at Miami. 7:30 start. You can see it on ABC, and that is your run. Oh, no. I'm sorry. Wait, there's more. Sorry, Justin. In the WNBA, it's Minnesota at New York at 6 and Phoenix at Dallas at 7. That is your rundown. Yeah.
I was like, where do you see that? And then
You typed it?
I know. I just typed it 10 minutes ago and still forgot.
Yeah.
That's how it goes around here sometimes.
Yeah.
It just be like that sometimes.
It
What
be
they
like
say.
that.
Today's top story, we go to St. Thomas Sports Park, maybe. I would assume,
Or the Nashville International Airport.
or B&A.
Yeah.
Or somewhere in between. There's a lot in between, too.
It could be a Panera Bread over there. Who knows? Meetings have taken place there.
At least one.
So, who knows? DeAndre Hopkins reportedly meeting with the Titans, and it will be his first meeting as a free agent.
Really? His first meeting as a free agent is with the Titans.
I think that's...
Is that?
Does that mean something?
Yeah, I think that's a question, and it might be a question that we need to hang on to for a couple of days.
Yeah. Obviously the Titans are probably in the most dire need of a wide receiver.
Are they?
What other team would be?
Baltimore?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you a single Baltimore wide receiver.
I can tell you a Baltimore quarterback who probably wishes you could tell him who some of his receivers are.
Green Bay. Is Randall Cobb still there?
No, he's going to New York.
Okay,
Or has gone to New York.
I mean, but then again, if we weren't fans of the Titans, could we tell you who a wide receiver was for the Tennessee Titans?
Most likely not.
So there's that. I mean, the Titans are definitely among the teams in most need of a wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
So certainly it makes sense that DeAndre Hopkins would come and visit with the Titans now.
And, you know, for the same reason that we felt like Julio Jones would be a great fit here, for the same reason we felt like Robert Woods would be a great fit here. You know, they've got some young kids, Traylon Burks, who you feel like is going to eventually be WR1, but may not quite be there yet. You know, Kyle Phillips coming off injury. NWI is a nice complimentary receiver. He's nobody's number one. And so I think DeAndre Hopkins in that room, as much as on the field, would be really valuable for the Titans.
Yeah, that would. I mean, they need a veteran in
presence.
The room. Yeah, even if he's wide receiver 2 or, you know, lower. Just having him in the room makes him valuable.
No, I think if you get him in here, you really want him to be at least
2. Yeah, I think he would be. I mean, because Phillips is going to be a slot guy, and NWI is not a guy that you want to play a lot. And Racey McMath, goodness gracious. So,
his ceiling.
His ceiling's huge, and he's got the speed to take the top off, which is the most important thing that he brings to the table. And then you've got the rookie out of Martin.
Oh, yeah.
Who I think is going to be surprisingly good for this Titans team. Hopkins had an MCL tear in 21. Missed week 17 and 18 last year with a flare-up, but played most of the year. So it's not like a Robert Wood situation coming off of an ACL, not like a Julio situation coming off of an injury. This is a guy who played most of last year. Now, was it a culture fit in Arizona that was the problem? What was the issue? I think that's important to note. Why were they so willing to let you go? Was it physical? Was it, again, culture? Why do they not care if you left?
Because they're Arizona?
Well, and there's that. That is definitely one of the possibilities for sure.
Yeah. Colton Dowell
Colton
is
Dowell,
who you
that's
were
it.
trying to recall. The Wilson Central
That's right.
product.
So, I mean, to me, I don't necessarily put him in the Julio/Robert Woods camp only because he's not coming off injury.
I don't necessarily put him in that camp, but I think you have to be concerned that Titans and free agent receivers, heck, Titans and receivers, period, aren't a great mix.
Do you think DeAndre Hopkins benefits from the lack of expectation he would probably have
Because
of
Julio
and Robert Woods?
In a perverse kind of way, yeah. It's like, another Titans free agent receiver, yeah.
I mean, if you get anything out of him, you're happy.
It's a plus.
Yeah.
I think there's that. I also think that he would benefit here just because theoretically, and I would think Derrick Henry is the best running back he's played with.
Probably. I feel like Houston had a guy early.
He might have had a guy early, but he wasn't Derrick Henry.
No. Clearly, because I can't recall his name.
So there you go.
But Arian Foster. That's who I was thinking of. And Foster was pretty good.
He was pretty good. Oh, yeah. I just
I don't know if they played together or not.
I'm not sure they played together.
It would have been close.
Mm-hmm. And he would have been a rookie second-year guy at that point,
Probably.
I would think. But I just think that he would benefit from the focus that defenses will have to place on Derrick Henry.
But does he draw the number one cornerback?
That's a good question. Because again, you're not gonna put him and Traylon Burks on the same side. I mean, who you gonna cover?
I mean,
one of them is, as the young folks like to say, one of them is going to eat if Hopkins is here, I think.
ideally. And here's the thing: what a lot of folks don't understand, Traylon Burks is not only healthy, he can breathe, which was the biggest issue last year.
Which cannot be understated
No.
for a receiver,
Being able to
for
breathe
a speed receiver.
is so vital. And he could not do it last year.
It's crazy that you have to say that.
But the fact that he couldn't,
Breathing is good. Film at 11.
the fact that he couldn't breathe last year due to the asthma, and we all know what Nashville is like when you bring in all of the air quality issues that we have here,
And the heat.
and on top of the heat, he's found a way to fight that. And if that's the case, I think he's a legit number one in the next year or two. I really do.
Yeah.
And so if you have a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, by the way, Titans only have about $7.5 million in cap space. So if they sign him, they're going to have to find some cap space somewhere. So somebody's getting a contract extension. I don't know who it's going to be. Yeah.
It looks as if Arian Foster and DeAndre Hopkins may have been together in 2015,
For 1
which
year.
would kind of explain why we couldn't remember.
It's only been nearly a decade ago.
Good Lord, right?
And that's the thing. I mean, Hopkins has been in the league. This will be his 8th year. For a wide receiver, that's almost geriatric. I mean,
We've signed older.
we have. We have, in fact. So, I mean, look, if DeAndre Hopkins wants to be a Titan, I want DeAndre Hopkins to be a Titan. That's there's no ifs, ands, or buts there, because he can't hurt.
We had that same conversation 2 years ago. That's what concerns me about it.
Well,
And again, I mean, it comes back to what you're saying. DeAndre Hopkins is, relative to Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins is healthy. And I think the receiver core is probably in a better place now than it was then.
I don't know. We had AJ. So,
That's fair.
so I mean,
How soon we forget? How soon I forgot? Okay.
but yes, I think last year's an anomaly because of the offensive line. I think that the wide receiver core was not great, but I think they got a
Well,
little
it's
bit
kinda-
of a bad rep because
Well, and it's kind of like we've said on this show about Malik Willis. I don't know that you can judge Malik Willis off of last year just because of the trash line he had to play behind.
there is nobody on the offensive side of the ball you can judge based on last year except for Chico Conquo because he's a superstar.
Correct.
Do you remember we had this conversation last year about how much better the opening drive scripts were and how we thought Todd Downing had turned the corner? Turns out Tim Kelly was the
Was
one
writing
scripting
the
the
scripts.
scripts, was scripting the first quarters. The Titans were 4th in the league in first quarter points.
How did we find that
differential. I saw it yesterday on Twitter.
Oh, so it must be true.
Well, I mean, it was in a report. I don't remember who wrote it.
Wow.
So
The
just
little credit that we were giving Todd Downing he didn't deserve is what you're saying.
and the guy who did
Deserved
what we
it?
were excited about is now the new offensive coordinator. So just take that and do with it what you will.
It deserves to have something done with it.
I think it for those who were concerned about the in hiring, that can make you breathe a little easier, which, by the way, is critical. Breathing is critical.
Maybe that's what's helping Traylon too. Then Traylon, excuse me.
He's a little bit easier feeling these days
There we go.
with a new offensive coordinator. So anyway, DeAndre Hopkins could soon be a Tennessee Titan. That'd be interesting.
And apparently, according to this report that's on NFL.com, he is flying. He's not here today. He's coming in this weekend. He will fly to Tennessee Sunday for a visit with the Titans, according to NFL Network insider Tom Pelissero reported.
Why on earth would you come here during CMA week? Don't fly in or out if you can help it. Trust me.
Or if you are, fly into Atlanta and drive up. I don't know.
You might as well fly into Murfreesboro or Mount Pleasant. You'd be better off. So
can't be any worse.
No.
Of course, you fly into Mount Pleasant, then you got to drive across town to get to STSP.
Just meet in Franklin.
Meet in Cool Springs.
Yeah, meet in Cool Springs and call it a day.
Hang out at Drake's.
Something.
Yeah.
But let's take a break. Heather Williams is standing by, and we'll talk a little NASCAR and Kansas City sports. So stick around. Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Come back to the Lee Company studio after this.
Hi, everybody.
Music City will be rocking June 23rd through the 25th with a different sound. The sound of NASCAR. The Ally 400 is back at Nashville Superspeedway, and this year, it's a night race. NASCAR in Nashville. It's guitars and fast cars under the lights. Visit NashvilleSuperspeedway.com to get your tickets today for the triple header weekend.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between, discover what Hit City has to offer. Spend your nights cheering on the Nashville Sounds at First Horizon Park with giveaways, fireworks shows, theme weekends, and more. Single game tickets are on sale now. Visit NashvilleSounds.com to claim your seat today.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Murray County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic service, and our Ortho Quick Walk-In Clinic lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net.
Welcome back in Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Chris Yow and Mo Patton here on this Wednesday. It is, of course, Wild and Wacky Wednesday. So the weirdest and wildest news still to come from across the world. But first, we go to Heather Williams, talk a little NASCAR and some Kansas City sports, because your boy Travis Kelce is out here doing really cool stuff with the president. That's all I'm saying. He might be the next president. Heather, what's up?
I mean, everybody in Kansas City has long known that Travis Kelce is a national treasure. Now, the rest of the world gets to find out between SNL and the stuff at the White House. I mean, he's quite the guy, and he's also quite the football player. So, big fan.
That always helps when you can be a character, but you kind of earn the right to be a character. That helps, because we've seen a lot of folks that didn't necessarily.
I just like that Patrick Mahomes, with his first interception of his career, intercepts him on the way to the podium.
Oh, I get it.
just right off there. Hold on, Travis. Just back up.
Just rode him right on out of the pocket, huh?
It was so great.
But typical of what that duo is. I mean, they very much interact like that a lot. I mean, they're great friends. They get into trouble a little bit together, and that moment was actually pretty indicative of that relationship.
It was great. Maybe one of my favorite things I've ever seen at a White House trip for any of these teams. Most of the time they're pretty mundane, but that was great. That was right up there with the Steve Kerr, Michael Jordan, Barack Obama moment. So that was pretty neat. Oh man,
Heather, you were otherwise detained this time last Wednesday, and so we had to go a little deeper on the depth chart. I'm not sure if you had a chance to see the show, but former Kansas City Chiefs second-round draft pick Bernard Pollard joined us in your spot.
Nice. Well, he knows about as much about NASCAR as I do, so I'm sure he was a pretty good fill-in.
He was
backup.
pretty good. He was not necessarily embracing the fill-in role.
Oh, he wants my job now.
Yeah, well, he did not appreciate being referred to as the backup, as Chris.
Well, I don't think he's ever been a backup anything in his life. Has
exactly.
He? So,
It was a new role for him, and he was not very appreciative of it, and did not hesitate to tell Chris more than once. So we may have to get y'all both on at the same time here pretty soon and let y'all kind of battle it out.
I got no chance against that guy. That guy's like three of me.
But he was really good and gave us some pretty good insight on this past weekend's race, which ultimately went to Kyle Busch out in Illinois.
Yeah, I mean, they've been very good at specific tracks this year. The consistency on the different types of tracks is not there, but at these kind of tracks, the 8 car has been good. He's got 3 wins now. I mean, he's got to be right up there, considered to be one of the favorites for the championship, which is scary because we're not even halfway through year 1 of this relationship at Childress. So the 8 car is definitely going in the right direction.
I was interested last week, obviously, with with all of the drama with Chase Elliott, coming into the race. It sort of overshadowed a little bit of the race itself, but it really was, and it was a good race. It was a good weekend for NASCAR, I thought.
Yeah,
especially
the race
coming off of the week before.
Yeah, the Coca-Cola 600 was a great race. It absolutely was overshadowed, if not by that, then with Bubba and Eric. I mean, very few people were talking about Ryan at the end of the day, which is unfortunate because that was a huge win for the 12 team. The debate with what happened with Chase and Danny kind of spilled into this week too, because then Austin Dillon got jumped out of the car and said Austin Cindric wrecked me on purpose. And I think the thing that some fans are having a hard time understanding, and I get it. NASCAR's not super consistent. They haven't had a reputation of being super transparent in their decisions along the way. But the difference that we're talking about specifically with the Chase and Denny crash and why Chase had to be parked is the speed at which they were going and the way that he wrecked him in almost that exact same spot many, many years ago, 20 years ago now, Blaze Alexander was sent into the wall and died in a very similar crash where he was hooked in the right rear. You just cannot allow drivers to hook people in the right rear at 180 miles an hour. At St. Louis, at Martinsville, at Bristol, at Phoenix, there's a little bit more of a debate on whether or not what the intent is and all that kind of stuff. But there can't be any discussion, intent or not. You just cannot do it at 160, 170 miles per hour. It's just too dangerous, even with safer barriers, even with Hans devices. I mean, Denny Hamlin, very early in his career, got right rear hooked by, I think it was Joey Logano at California, and ended up breaking his back and missed 6 weeks. And this is, post Hans device and softer barriers and all that kind of stuff. So that you just can't let that happen. It just can't be a thing. And so I know that a lot of fans are going to whine because Austin Cindric did not get suspended this week, but it's a completely different scenario, purely just based on the speeds, if nothing else.
Well, I want to talk about Ryan Blaney for just a minute because his win did get a little bit overshadowed, and he also led 83 laps this week. Is Ryan Blaney on the upswing?
Well, Ryan's always been one of the most consistent drivers in the garage area. I mean, I think he was third or fourth in the points last year going into the playoffs without winning a race. I mean, the 12 car is incredibly consistent. Where they lack and what's always hurt them, especially when it gets to the playoffs, is they don't seem to be able to finish. They don't seem to be able to get wins. And so the Coke 600 was significant for him because it was a long race. They stood in front the whole time, were able to adjust and chase the track and still win and get the finish. So I think the thing to watch on the 12 car throughout the summer is, can they get the finishes? Can they continue to build on that Coke 600 win and not only lead laps and run up front, but get wins? Because when you get to the playoffs, the drivers that win are almost always the drivers that end up in the championship four, because first of all, you get all those playoff bonus points, but also you have the ability to win in the playoffs, which, automatically brings you on to the next round. And then most of the time, the guy who wins at Phoenix is your champion. So that's where the 12 car really needs to improve before I can consider him a favorite for the playoffs.
Going into Sonoma, hold on, let's go back. Chase Elliott receives another waiver, by the way. And this is one of those NASCAR not having transparency things. The fact is that Chase Elliott's going to get a waiver for whatever he needs to get a waiver for, because he's the most popular driver and has been and will be. And I'm sorry, that's just, you can't.
Yeah, but I think everybody's going to get a waiver for pretty much what they are waiver for. The whole thing with why he needs a waiver is they have the rule that you have to attempt every race to be eligible for the playoffs. And that's really to keep a guy from, like, let's say, you bring in, Jordan Taylor, who's running this week at Sonoma, and he's only attempting the road course races. What if he wins this week? He doesn't run another race, and then he shows up at the playoffs. It's like, I'm a playoff driver.
Yeah.
They don't want that. So the guys that would have, but for suspensions or injuries, attempted every race, teams that are there all the time, those guys are always going to get waivers no matter the reason, because the intent of that attempting every race is not really for them. It's to keep the ringers out. So that's why. It doesn't matter if it's Chase or.
So let's change the rule to 75%. If that's the case, let's change the rule.
I mean, I think that's fair. I think that's a fair thing. You have to attempt 75% of the races or 50% of the races, because too, the thing is that, I don't think that the rule is fair per se. Like, just for instance, the team that we cover here, the Truck Series team, and Parker Kligerman and Henderson Racing, they do 10 to 15 races every year. They don't do the full Truck Series, but it's somewhere in that. And they've been doing that in the Truck Series for 10 years. They've been racing in the Trucks for Xfinity. They're the longest active team in the sport, but they're not a big budget team. So they don't do every race. They just do 10 to 15. They won a race last year, but they were playoff eligible. They probably could have run all the playoff races and been in contention last year if that rule didn't exist. So I think it's a fair criticism. But I just wanted to clear up that everybody's going to get a waiver unless you're a one-off type driver or part-time driver.
So to Sonoma, no stage breaks. How much of a factor does that play in this one?
It's huge, but it makes road course racing what it's supposed to be. You know, the thing that's so cool about road course racing, or I always thought in the past, is that everybody's running a different race. So everybody works it backwards and figures out how many stops that they have. And then you don't really stop unless you have to. Other than that, you think you can make it on 2 stops, you're only stopping twice. If you think short pitting and getting tires and stopping 3 times, then you do that. But with the stage breaks, it eliminated that kind of strategy, and everybody stopped their 2 stage breaks, and that was it. It brings the crews and the crew chiefs into it a little bit more, which I always thought was the cool part of road course racing. So I actually love it. I think it was a very smart move by NASCAR to do that at this track. You don't need the cautions for the excitement like you do at some of the other tracks.
Right. I mean, it's a road course. They're going to be kind of bunched up for the most part, at least throughout the field. It's interesting, and obviously Chase is one of the better road course drivers. I mean, and probably kind of feels like he's got a chip on his shoulder. Oh, and by the way, he's got to win to get in because he's not going to get in on points.
Right.
So how, with that motivation behind him, he's going to be hard to beat this week, huh?
Normally, I would say yes. I don't know that Hendrick, and specifically the 9 and the 48, which are the 2 cars that need wins at this point, although the 48's pretty close on points. He might be able to point his way in. But I don't think every one of those teams are running particularly well right now. I was really disappointed in what the 9 looked like with Corey LaJoie behind the wheel. I thought that he would have had more for the track last weekend. But Chase really, he came back at Martinsville and he ran well, but since then he hasn't been a major player. You wouldn't look at him and say he was ever a threat to win a race. And it feels the same for the 48. So while the 5 and the 24 are definitely out there like competing every week for wins, the other 2 not so much. And so that's why I don't know that necessarily this is the race for Chase. I would maybe point a couple weeks down the road to Nashville, where he won last year, as being a better opportunity for him to get a win.
Okay. Well, can't let you get out of here without maybe hurting your heart a little bit. But as we are about to go into our baseball segment, just wanted to mention, I don't know if you've noticed or have heard that the Royals are open for business. Aroldis Chapman and Scott Barlow could be part of a trade package.
The least shocking news of the day. I really think that they picked up Aroldis Chapman to see if they could rehabilitate him and turn him for pieces, right? The Royals were never going to be contenders this year.
Sure.
They might have. I don't think anyone thought it was going to be this bad, but I think that they picked up Aroldis Chapman specifically with the intent. They were pretty confident they knew what was wrong with him and that they could fix him, and then trading him for pieces for their future. And so that's not surprising. Barlow a little bit more so, although they don't really have any use for him now because they're not winning games, right? What's the back of the end bullpen guy if you only won 20 games? He's not really.
Don't help.
Yeah, they don't help. So
you know who they should look at? That Jorge Soler guy.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thanks for that, by the way.
It's fine. We weren't winning anything. And I like Jorge Soler, and I was just really surprised that he ended up in Atlanta just because he can't field. Like, he's a DH. So, but it worked out. You hit him pretty well in the outfield, but
it absolutely worked out.
But
yes, it did.
Yeah, that didn't bother me at all. The team is several years off from being a contender. So, seeing a guy that I really liked get a World Series ring, and then also getting pieces that may or may not help you. All you can do is try to bring more guys in and see if they compete. I'm never going to be mad about that if we can't win, which we can't right now.
Since that's the case, the Braves could certainly use some bullpen arms. I wonder if maybe they've got a relationship, so we'll see what happens.
Well, they've had a relationship. Actually, I think Dayton Moore's gone, right?
Dayton Moore's gone, yes.
Yeah, so I don't know that they do necessarily have a relationship at this point, but hopefully Kansas City isn't real up on what Alex Anthopoulos has done to other teams in trades, and maybe he can get one more through. So,
well, also the biggest thing about the whole thing that it gets me excited is that they found a guy, they fixed him, and they were able to turn him. So now maybe if we can fix the guys that we want to keep, then we'll do something.
That's the key right there.
There you go.
That's the key. Heather, as always, great stuff. Looking forward to talking with you again next week and learning about road course racing as we approach Nashville, getting closer and closer by the day.
So it's almost time. It's crazy to think that I was watching the commercial that you had in the break and thought that was just last year. It's crazy. Time flies, and yet sometimes it feels like it was also a long time ago.
Yeah, I understand.
We feel you.
Yeah, Heather, thanks.
See you guys.
All right, we'll take a break, come back, talk a little Braves here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. So you guys stick around. We'll be right back after this.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think about calling for a ride. Nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that can happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone.
Tired of hanging lights every year? We get it. That's why Southern Nights is here to help. We install programmable lighting on your home or business so you can enjoy beautiful, customizable lighting all year round. No more ladders, tangled lights, or cold nights outside. We do the work, you do the celebrating. Call Southern Nights today and take the hassle out of holiday lighting forever. For a free quote, give us a call at 931-241-3074 or visit our Facebook page at Southern Nights.
Vroom, vroom. Time for the Rackley Roofing 200, and it is going to be June 23rd out at the Nashville Super Speedway. And we partnered up, all of us here at Main Street Media TV, and we have joined with Rackley Roofing to send you. Yep, what you got to do to win? All you got to do is go to your favorite Main Street Media website, look for the Enter to Win banner, click there, and you're in. Like Flynn. Isn't that cool? Main Street Media TV and Rackley Roofing sending you to the races.
Hockey in Music City just hits different. It's one big honky-tonk party. It's the sea of gold in the crowd, the goals, the saves, the celebrations. It's an experience like no other. Experience Predators hockey all season long. Visit NashvillePredators.com/season tickets and join the Loyal Legion today. That's NashvillePredators.com/tickets, and we'll see you at Bridgestone Arena.
June 7th, 2007, with the New York Yankees' 10-3 road win over the Chicago White Sox, Joe Torre won his 2000th game as a manager. Torrey, who won 257 games with the Atlanta Braves, 286 with the New York Mets, and 351 with the St. Louis Cardinals, became the first person in Major League Baseball history with 2,000 managerial victories and 2,000 hits, as he accumulated 2,342 over an 18-year playing career with the Braves, Cardinals, and Mets. That was this day in Braves history.
All right. I hate these days. These are not my favorite Braves history days.
How so?
I'm just saying. Anytime that Joe Torre wins, and he's not managing the Braves.
Yeah. Well,
so
happens.
It's like, man, that guy. Last night, the Atlanta
Wonder who Joe Torre roots for when the Braves play the Mets.
Well, since he won a bunch of games as a Yankee, I'm hoping it's the Braves, but that's a good question. Now, he played for the Braves.
Exactly.
It's got to be the Braves.
You would think.
Got to be.
You would think. Of course, he also played for the Mets, is my point.
Well, but we drafted him, right?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, and his brother.
See, that's where he gets you.
We're
We're all family here.
Yeah.
Last night, the Braves win 6-4. Pete Alonso goes yard in a 4-run third inning.
I believe.
I believe
it was third.
Bryce Elder struggled in one inning, and that was it, because after Pete Alonso went absolute yak.
Yeah,
as Brian Jordan would say. Talked a little trash standing in the dugout. Now, he waited till he got to the dugout to do it, which I thought was interesting. But said, quote, throw it again, talking about Bryce Elder's slider.
Throw it again, please. He was nice. He said please.
He did say please.
He said please.
Now, after the game, apparently Bryce Elder did not hear said trash talk, but said that had he heard it, he would have been okay with it, because if I'd hit one to the concourse, I'd probably talk trash too, he said.
There you go.
And you know what? He's not wrong.
Yeah.
But you know what? Do you know what happened after that?
What typically happens after that?
The Atlanta Braves gave up one hit the rest of the game. Come back to win 6-4. And did it in
unbraves-like fashion.
That's exactly what I was trying to get to. Unbraves-like fashion.
Because there were no home runs involved.
Yeah, not a lot of big time hits. It was a lot of.
There were some extra base hits, but not homers.
A lot of station to station kind of stuff, and kind of gives you hope that the Braves can win in multiple ways.
The fact that they were able to string some hits together.
You know, it's like I told you about, who leaves men on base? Good offenses, because they get on base. Mm-hmm. But getting those guys in is huge. And Raciel Iglesias, sans that outing in Oakland, has been really, really good since his first two appearances.
This bullpen has been really, really good of late. I think they've gone 6 straight shutout appearances. I think is what I saw. Well, I think I had seen yesterday that their last 5 appearances have been shutouts, and then yesterday was as well, so that's 6.
That's what we expected out of this bullpen from the beginning of the year. Didn't quite get that early, but sometimes it takes a bullpen a little bit of time to settle into their roles. And even A.J. Minter, over his last, I think, 8 outings, he's been, lights out. So now that everybody's kind of found their way, Kirby Yates keeps it up. Jesse Chavez with Braves across his chest is just otherworldly. Dude looks like he ought to be playing slow pitch softball somewhere, and yet.
You leave Uncle Jesse alone.
Exactly. So,
But to go back to what the offense did last night, Sean Murphy doubles home a couple of runs. Marzel Ozuna doubles home a run. Orlando Arcia singled to drive in a run. And Ozuna eventually beats out what was a double play ball. They forced Ozzy at second and then turn two, but they overturned that call at second to score a run. So again, piecing some things together offensively without the power surge. Their only home run last night was Ozzy early in the game that got him on the board. So you like to see that.
I think it's about time. It's time to start talking about Michael Harris II and how awful he is at the plate and how he can't hit at all and he's terrible and all of the things
and
that
his
need to
mother
be
dresses
said.
him funny and all that other stuff.
all the things that need to be said.
Whatever it takes to get him going, yeah.
Because only Brave last night without a hit.
That's tough.
And, yeah, hitting 163 for the year at this point.
But
really struggling.
I think he's going to get every opportunity to work through it, if for no other reason than what he gives you on defense.
Yeah, I mean, you can't send him down.
You can't send him down. You can't take him out.
And, yeah, I mean, I would be fine with a Kevin Pillar in center field, but
not every day.
I would much rather have Michael Harris II. And if you take him out, you got to send him down because he's got to play to figure it out.
Yeah, you can't sit him.
And you've got to do one or the other. And I mean, just defensively, he's so much better than anybody else on the team.
Yep.
He's easily the best outfielder we have on the team. And so, I mean, what do you do? It's tough. And I think he's going to figure it out. Again, I don't know if anybody remembers Austin Riley's second year, but it was putrid. I mean, god-awful. Until he figured it out. Chipper's on site. Now, I don't know that Chipper Jones can help Michael Harris the way that he helped Austin Riley. Riley obviously probably has a similar swing type versus, Harris probably doesn't.
Probably not, just for the fact that even though Chipper was a switch hitter, he was a power hitter.
Yeah, and that's not what Michael Harris is going to do long term. Now, he did it last year, probably a little bit too much.
That doesn't need to be his game.
Right. We just need you on base. Mm-hmm. Just get on base.
Be that second leadoff out of the number 9 spot.
And
could generate some RBI opportunities for number 13.
He and Sean Murphy both left 4 on last night.
And they still won.
That's right. Well, they left 13 on total. 13. Double the number, basically. New York left 7. But again, who leaves men on bases? Good offenses. I'm confident going into this month. I feel like people are going to get some stuff worked out now that the bullpen has worked itself out. Offense is going to come.
The bullpen, I think, works itself out when you minimize Jimenez and Yates.
Yates has been fine. Jimenez, not so much. I'll give you that for sure. But Yates has been good recently.
Mm-hmm.
Recently. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Now, how long that lasts, I don't know. But,
small doses.
Outside of him,
Yates.
outside of those two guys, though, I mean.
And when you say that, there's going to be some decisions that have to be made when Michael Tonkin in particular gets back. And who'd have thought you'd be saying that at the beginning of the season?
Yeah, I mean, are we cool with Chavez, Minter, Iglesias? I mean, it's getting the job done, so I'm not cool with it.
I mean, why would you not be cool? The only reason that you wouldn't be cool with Chavez is that you kind of like the flexibility that he gives you, and so penciling him into a specific role, you may want to stay away from, because he can do a lot of things.
Yeah, he can actually
He can give you 2 or 3 innings if necessary.
He can give you 2 or 3. He can be an opener.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things that he can do, whereas.
And so kind of making him the 7th inning guy may not be what you want to do. But again,
Nick Anderson, though, had been really good, recently, well, all year.
I think he's still been good. I mean,
And
we just didn't see him last night.
Well, I wonder if that shouldn't be his role, though.
What, that 7th inning?
And maybe
If
Snit's
AJ is
testing some stuff out.
If AJ is handling the 8th, then yeah. AJ hasn't. He's getting back to being AJ Minter, as opposed to the other one,
Smith Shawver.
Yeah, but that's not been the case all year. So
that's true.
But
Colin
yeah.
McHugh can be shot to the sun for all I
Mhm.
care. But I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. I think Anderson, and maybe Snit's just throwing Chavez because he needed to throw. I don't know.
that could be.
But also, were they winning? They weren't winning in the 7th, were they?
Yeah. When did they go ahead?
In the
they went
8th?
ahead in the. Was it
Oh
in
no,
the
they
8th?
went ahead in the 6th with the
Yeah.
4-run 6th.
And then Chavez came in the 7th.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe he was just giving Chavez some work. I don't know, but I'll take it.
Absolutely.
Whatever they need to do.
I thought the best thing that happened last night was that they got Bryce Elder off the hook.
Yeah, he
Because
needed a little help.
he threw well enough to win. He ran into that rough spot where he gave up the home runs to Lindor and to Alonso, but I just didn't feel like he necessarily deserved to lose that game 4-1. So
Yeah, I
thought that was good.
I'm looking here. He faced the minimum in all but the 1st and 3rd, and he only saw 4 in the 1st because Lindor walked.
Mm-hmm.
But he struck out Nimmo, McNeil flied out, Alonso flied out. Of course, it was to deep left, but he flied out. And then in the 4th, it was the tough inning. But the rest of the way, like I said, I think he gave up a single in the 4th, but that was turned into a double play.
Mm-hmm.
So he faced the minimum in the next 3 innings. I think that's one thing that you have to take into consideration. A young guy like Bryce Elder gives up 4 runs, goes out and takes care of business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, didn't take the last inning back out to the mound with him.
That's huge. That is probably the most important thing to take away from
Short memory.
from that. So well done to the Braves. They send New York under 500.
Hate to see that, don't you?
And I think that puts them 7.5 behind.
7.5 or 6.5?
I thought it was 6.5 yesterday, but
I thought it was 6.5 after the game. But,
it may be. Either way,
yes, they are 6.5 right now. In fact, as DOB tweeted after the game, the Mets are closer to the last place Nationals than they are to the first place Braves right now.
there you go. Miami's on a 5-game win streak. The Marlins never lose.
Yeah, right. Oh, Frank had a snap.
Fire Joe Buck or not Joe Buck.
Buck Showalter. Yeah, as I almost said Buck Martinez actually, but yeah, yeah. He had even for Frank, he had a pretty significant snap last night. That was fun.
It's what you love to see.
You do, you really do. So what are we, 6:20 tonight? Scherzer and Morton.
Scherzer and Morton. How you feeling about that? Scherzer.
Charlie's going to give up a big inning at some point, probably in the 4th or 5th. But other than that, he's going to give you a chance to win. And we just got to go out and be ready to try to weather that big inning that he gives up.
Offense is important. That's it.
Yeah.
All right. Jacob deGrom facing Tommy John for the second time.
Goodness gracious.
What does this do to his legacy?
I mean, you've seen it all over Twitter. Great pitcher when he's healthy. And there's going to be a lot of what if when he's done.
Think so. Does he come back?
It's a good question.
Can he come back?
Two different questions.
Think he's gonna have to try.
He has to try.
But if he can.
But I mean, you've seen guys that have had multiple Tommy Johns before, and it is overcomable. And I don't know. I mean, I don't have the mentality of an athlete. But I mean, do you want to?
That's a good question. I think he does, because the mentality is, I've got to prove that I can do this. I can't go out like this. But hey, don't feel bad. Same thing that ended Cy Young's career. So there's that. Let's take a break. Jen Schroeder of the Package Deal is standing by to talk a little College World Series softball edition in Oklahoma City. She'll join us right after this on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint. We'll be back to the Lee Company studio in just a moment. Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Welcome back to Today's Better Health. I'm Colleen Barton, and I'm here with Dr. Gil Kentoff and Dr. Wendy Toohey, and we're talking about the latest treatments in back and neck pain.
Many people, Colleen, come to see us with neck and back pain, and they develop tingling and numbness down the arm or lower back pain that develops into sciatica shooting down their leg. And for these patients, we have an advanced treatment technology, non-surgical decompression therapy, that we really introduce to this area. It separates the vertebrae and creates a suction to allow fluids and nutrients back in to heal the disc naturally, relieving pressure on the nerve and on the joint. It's an amazing treatment.
We've been helping patients like this for the last 30 years, helping them get back to work, get back to their family, get back to the life they want to live. I mean, it really is amazing. Technology helping us to live pain-free and better lives. Right. And I bet you have a special offer.
The first 25 callers will receive an examination, x-rays, review of our findings, and their first treatment, all for $39.
Call 615-551-3897 today to receive this special offer.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between, discover what Hit City has to offer. Spend your nights cheering on the Nashville Sounds at First Horizon Park with giveaways, fireworks shows, theme weekends, and more. Single game tickets are on sale now. Visit NashvilleSounds.com to claim your seat today.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Murray County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic service, and our Ortho Quick Walk-In Clinic lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net.
Welcome back in Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Chris Yow and Mo Patton here with you on this Wednesday. Again, the weirdest and wildest news from across the world still set to come your way in just a few moments, including the infamous backhoe at the airport story. I'm sure we'll get back into that. But before we do, Mo, let's go out to Oklahoma City, where they'll crown a Women's College World Series champion. Will it be a new one, or will it be the old one? That's the question that will get answered over the next 3 days as Florida State and Oklahoma take the field. And to talk about it with us, we have former UCLA Bruins catcher, all Pac-10 honoree, and 3 times she competed in this tournament, so she knows what it's like. Jen Schroeder. Jen, thanks for joining us.
Hey, guys. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, we appreciate you taking some time. As first pitch is what, 7 tonight?
Believe so.
Yep. 8 Eastern, 7 Central.
There we go. Jen, it's been knocked around a lot on social media here over the last few days, I guess. Does Oklahoma have an unfair advantage playing this thing every year in OKC?
You know, I don't think so. And I became pretty vocal about this. I think that, of course, there's 10,000 fans in the stadium cheering for Oklahoma. There's no doubt. But they're there because Oklahoma is good. Oklahoma isn't good because they're there. You know, back when I played at UCLA, we won a lot. And Oklahoma didn't. And there's a reason that there's that many fans, because Oklahoma has grown their program over the years. And the fans are there to now watch them and celebrate them. But back in the early 2000s, Oklahoma had 1 championship. 2000, that's it. They haven't been winning for a long time. They've been winning for the last 10 years.
So how do you combat it now that it is what it is?
You know, I got to tell you guys, in 2019, UCLA won. They faced off with Oklahoma in the finals. And I work with ESPN, so I was doing all the postseason coverage with ESPN. And for the World Series, I got to be a fan. So I got to sit in our little parent family section, and it was a tiny blue bubble versus what felt like the state of Oklahoma. But UCLA ended up winning that championship in 2 games. It was incredible to be a part of. It was incredible to be a part of the side that didn't feel like we had 10,000 fans in the stands, because we probably had 50, you know. But what I'm saying is it can be done.
I'm interested in this because, you know, one of the reasons that Oklahoma City is the environment that it is because of Oklahoma. There's no doubt about that. But if this game was played in Palo Alto or anywhere in California, it'd be the same thing just for Pac-12 schools. So it's not necessarily the fault of Oklahoma. It just so happens that they've become the atmosphere that you need for college softball.
Right. No, 100%. And if there was another facility across the country that could fit 12 to 15,000 fans and a city that was invested in the sport of softball, because you've got to think about how much money the city of Oklahoma City has put in to Hall of Fame Stadium. They're investing a lot of money, right? So if there was another facility across the country that could accommodate the fans and would be willing to accommodate the NCAA tournament, I think we could be having a conversation, but right now there simply isn't.
I thought I saw, and I'm not familiar enough with it, and you could tell me, Jen, I thought I saw Rosemont, Illinois thrown out as a potential alternative site.
Yeah, so Rosemont does host. They're hosting AU, Athletes Unlimited, this summer. They were the home of the Chicago Bandits, which was a previous professional team. They don't have 14,000 seats. They probably have 5,000. So it's nowhere close right now, but I think that people are saying, okay, potentially we could build out a bigger, more robust stadium there. And I think that'd be an incredible location to host, but right now it's not ready to go. Right now there's not a stadium across the country that's ready to go.
Now, Hall of Fame Stadium, do they bring those outfield bleachers into the stadium for this event?
Yes. It's seen so much growth over the years, where 2 years ago there wasn't even a top deck. So as of 2 years, they added the top deck, and then those outfield stadiums that you see, those are brought in. So they're not permanent structures.
So what you're telling me is the fence doesn't have to be 200 feet.
No, it moves back and forth depending on what tournament is played there.
Just making sure that I understood that correctly. Now, I'm not saying, I'm just saying that there's a lot of excitement when balls go out of the ballpark. I get that. But you also sometimes get girls or women at this point who haven't hit home runs in 2.5 years hitting home runs.
And you're talking about Florida State the other day.
I'm not over here saying that Tennessee was going to win the game if that girl doesn't go yard. But
right.
Hey, chicks dig the long ball, literally.
There is that. But Florida State obviously has a fantastic, not just ball club, but a pitching staff that is maybe unrivaled by anybody other than Tennessee and Oklahoma. And that's going to be key in this 3-game set. If Florida State's going to win this thing, they're going to have to get pitching from more than just their ace.
Yeah, I read something today, guys, that talked about Kat Sandercock, who's the ace from Florida State, and Jordy Ball, who's the ace from Oklahoma. Both of those pitchers only have one loss on the year. They both came on the same exact day. Isn't that crazy? February 19th, I believe, is the date. I would have to go back, and it was the 19th of one month, and I believe it was February. So have not lost since then, and both lost on the same day. I thought that fact was just pretty comical and crazy at the same time.
Wild and wacky, perhaps. Yeah. Jen, what happened? What has to happen? And obviously the pitching is a big part of it, but what has to happen for Oklahoma to lose twice?
Oklahoma is one of the most talented teams that we've ever seen in this sport, but I think their games
without Jocelyn Allo, by the way.
Right. No, they've hit 100 less home runs than they did last year. Isn't that crazy? 100 less. But even saying that, they're deeper than they've ever been. You know, Patty Gasso has pinch hit her 3-hitter multiple times in this tournament because that's how deep they are. They can pull someone off their bench for their 3-hitter. But what does Florida State need to do? You know, Florida State is one of the most creative coaching staffs. And what I mean by that is they're going to watch so much video. They're going to analyze so much data that they're going to come in with a game plan. And I cannot wait to see what it is. Their players are going to buy so deeply into that game plan. And if anyone can beat them twice, it's Florida State. They're going to need to pitch creatively. They're going to need to have timely hits. And I do think that Oklahoma's games as of lately, so there are 2 games against Stanford, where both 2-run ball games, where 1 hit was the difference in both games. And their game against Clemson, I don't know if you guys watched that in the Super Regionals, they were down by 3. And Kinsey Hansen came up for a 3-run bomb, right? So you're talking about 3 hits to win 3 ball games. That's it. I think that's shown that Oklahoma is beatable, or they do have some weak points, and I think Florida State is going to be the team to maybe find them. I still think Oklahoma's winning this championship, guys, but Florida State may sneak a game.
Well, I mean, it's tough to pick against them until they lose. You just kind of got to be wrong at that point, I think. But when you say pitch creatively, Jen, And obviously, you don't know what the Florida State staff is going to do. We'll find out later tonight. But would you be so outside the box as to maybe let each pitcher go once time through the order and then make a move, that kind of thing? I mean, with the staff they've got, they could probably afford to do that. But, I mean, how crazy are they going to have to get?
You know, earlier this year, Texas Tech actually went with that game plan, and they held them to, at that point, the least amount of runs they had ever scored. Now, Texas Tech's pitching staff is quite different than Florida State's pitching staff. So when you're led by Kat Sandercock in the circle, obviously you have a little bit more room to go more than once through the lineup. But I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't even see Kat start. I mean, Lonnie Alameda is so creative. She is one of the best pitching coach developers in the game. And so I honestly can't wait to see what they do. And I think there's going to be interesting pitching changes that will surprise some people.
And Sandercock doesn't necessarily have to start. Didn't I see that she's either the only pitcher or one of two pitchers this season with 20 wins and 5 saves?
Yep. Yeah, she has more saves this year than she has in her entire career. And what's interesting about her is, she's a pitch to contact pitcher. She's going to keep the ball down. She typically keeps the ball in the yard. She has 5 saves, more than she's ever had. And she threw her first perfect game and her first no-hitter, which is kind of crazy because Kat Sandercock, one of the best in the game, this is her 5th season. And she just now threw her first no-hitter and first perfect game. So she's pitching her best softball right now.
Well, on top of that, McKenna Reed, who had a little bit of a issue in that semifinals game against Tennessee, she's been fantastic all year as well. In the first time that these two teams played, Florida State threw all of their pitchers. They threw everybody that they had at them, and lost 5-4. But I mean, when you look at Florida State, this seems to be like the kind of program that is built for this type of moment. They win 2, I guess it was against UCLA. Was it a couple of years ago before winning the championship against Washington?
Yeah, they beat UCLA in 2018 for their first national championship.
Okay, I mean,
Jen said she really appreciates you bringing that up.
Well, I thought she would remember it if that was the case. But, I mean, this is a team that's kind of built for being the underdog and fighting through adversity like this. That's kind of what they do.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I can vividly remember that 2018 championship when UCLA played.
Oh, no. Not sure if that's on our end or her end, but.
Oh, I think I'm back, guys. Sorry, did you lose me? Did you lose me?
We heard you say UCLA played, and that was it.
Sorry. So if you look back at that World Series, UCLA played Florida State game 1 of the tournament, and UCLA won. And Florida State had to come back and beat UCLA twice in one day with a 30-minute break. That's it. And they did it to go on to then beat Washington to win their first and only national championship. So when you talk about Florida State as the underdog, you nailed it. They're so good in those underdog moments.
Well, they're certainly in it.
They're definitely the underdog. I mean, there's no question there. And I think that's everybody in this tournament when it comes to Oklahoma, and no sign of the Sooners slowing down anytime soon either. I want to ask Jen. Jen, can you hear me?
I think I'm back again. I don't know what's happening, guys. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I want to ask your opinion because we had a pretty good discussion on this Monday about the transfer portal and Indiana losing a freshman of the year finalist, and how that impacts the game of college softball and the Big Ten, and how can the Big Ten get better if all of their superstars leave, when they're freshmen? How do you feel about what softball has become nationally and how important it is for, for players to find their place and maybe stick around or maybe not. Maybe they should transfer. I don't know.
Taryn Kern very well may find herself back in the Big Ten in a couple of years, just with the team that's not currently in the Big Ten right now. I haven't spoken to her, but that one, when that came out, I had multiple feelings. I was disappointed because I thought she'd stay with Coach Stanton, whom I love, and really try and take Indiana to a World Series. Now, on the flip side, I always try and play devil's advocate. And I was thinking, maybe she was somebody who committed to Indiana back in the 8th grade or freshman year. When is that her story? I don't know.
I know that happens a lot.
Right. And I was meaning to text one of her teammates because Megan Grant, some of the best freshmen in the country were her teammates in travel ball. And I was wondering if she was one of the players who maybe wasn't as good her 8th grade and freshman year and committed to Indiana. Maybe she did have goals to play in the SEC or in the Pac-12 or in a conference that goes to the World Series all the time. And maybe she wasn't good enough then. And then realized, she continued to grow, had this amazing freshman year, and maybe she wants to go to the World Series. I don't want to judge anyone's decision-making because I have a lot of friends who played at mid-majors who wanted to take that school. And obviously, Indiana's not a mid-major, but, a school that maybe wasn't going to go to the World Series and wanted to take that team to the World Series. But I can't speak to what's going on in her personal life. I can't speak to her personal decisions. Sure. But when that one came out, that was a little bit of a gut punch. Like, oh, man, you have this incredible year. You're a top 3 candidate. You have a phenomenal coach, and you're leaving. So I hope that I get the real story. But we're seeing so much of it, guys.
You just mentioned something.
Well, what she mentioned was gut punch. I don't know what resonated with you, but I'm going to jump in front of you here because, Jen, we had a similar situation, or we are in the midst of a similar situation here locally where Middle Tennessee State went down to the Tuscaloosa region and nearly knocked off Alabama, and we see what they did. And MTSU shortstop, whose name just left me,
Laura Mealer,
who came out of a smaller high school that's probably about 30 minutes or so from the Murfreesboro campus, went into the transfer portal. And when you say gut punch, and what Chris and I went back and forth on earlier this week is, what's best for the player and what's best for the program oftentimes don't match up. And where we're at with the transfer portal right now, players have the ability to kind of exercise more rights. And you feel for these coaches that identify these kids that can play, develop these kids to the point that they can play, and then watch them go out the door and utilize that talent somewhere else.
It's tough.
And there's multiple girls from that Tuscaloosa regional who have left. MTSU, obviously, the UCA pitcher is now going. She just announced her commitment to Alabama, which was very interesting.
After her
on-campus visit,
her 3-day on-campus visit.
Yes, exactly. But I'm going to play devil's advocate here, guys, because for so long, when we looked at coaches who had success at mid-majors or at lower-level schools, as soon as they had success, what did they do?
Boom.
Gone. Right? And so now we're just seeing it happen to players, and it's uncomfortable for all of us, but it's been happening in the coaching world for a long time.
Which is why my compromise is if your coach leaves, you can leave. Otherwise, you got to sit out a year. That's my compromise. That's where I'm at. I don't know. We'll go from there.
I mean, that too, or with all this NIL stuff, because so many people are leaving for NIL reasons, because female sports are a little different. We're not going to play for the Atlanta Braves, right? We're not going to play and make millions of dollars. We're not going to be someone. I listened to you guys talk about DeGrom. Like, is he going to come back? By the way, I think he's coming back, if you want my 2 cents. But we're not going to make those millions of dollars. And so I think girls are trying to capitalize on their time in college right now. So my compromise is, all right, if you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars, because there are athletes who are, then you don't get a scholarship.
I mean, that's fine.
They're-
You mean the Oxford Vipers aren't or the Smash It Sports Vipers, sorry, aren't paying hundreds of millions of dollars?
No, they're not. But they're
I'm very
playing at a
upset to
really
hear
cool.
this.
They're playing at a cool facility this summer. I want to come watch a game.
Listen, Chocolaco Park, go.
Yes.
Absolutely go. It is worth the trip. It's a beautiful place, and you'll love it. We don't have a lot of time, but you touched on something that I want to get your quick reaction to. Maybe not. There may not be enough time to get enough reaction to this, but you just said UCLA and USC are heading to the Big Ten. What does that do for Big Ten softball? It kind of forces you to get off
good
the
or
pot.
get gone.
Yeah. So how is that going to impact that conference?
Yeah, I don't think we have enough time to dive into this, but my 2 cents are there's going to be more teams from the Pac-10 or Pac-12 that are going to be in that conference sooner rather than later. And I think we're going to see the emergence of some sort of super conferences. I hope it would help Big Ten softball. I would assume that it would. That's my hope as a fan.
Kind of send them to Southern California for the first 2 months of the year so they can play.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Otherwise, they're going to be up there with frozen bats and balls.
Yes.
Right.
Jen Schroeder joining us here. Jen, tell us a little bit about what you're doing these days. I know you are you're the catcher guru, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, so I get to create gear for Easton Fast Pitch, gloves, bags. We were the first ever people to design female catchers gear, which is great. I have a facility in Orange County, California. My staff trains about 300 catchers a week, travel the country. I work for ESPN. I work for Sirius XM Radio, and I'm a mom of a 2-year-old, so just always busy.
That's always fun. Well, we appreciate you taking some time out of your schedule to join us here on Main Street Sports today. It's been a pleasure, and enjoy this 3-game set because it's going to go 3. Just throwing that out there.
Oh, you're calling it.
Well, I also replied to your tweet and said that Florida State had no chance because Tennessee was going to beat them twice, and I was wrong. So take my predictions as you will, but I'm hoping it goes 3 because I want to see it.
I love it. The softball fan in us all.
Absolutely. Well, appreciate it, and look forward to talking to you again soon.
Bye, guys. Have a great day.
Thanks, Jen.
Time for Wild and Wacky Wednesday, the weirdest and wildest news from across the world coming your way right now. And we'll start in Alabama. Roll Tide. Right? An Alabama animal shelter. I don't know if you saw this, but just an hour from here in Tuscumbia, a husky let some of his friends out of their cages at the animal shelter, and they had a little bit of a party, to say the least. The Colbert County Animal Shelter had to delay opening because their entire reception desk was essentially in the floor. Mo, I wish I could. I wish you could see this.
Oh, good Lord!
Yeah, and this is what they see when they open the door the next morning is the husky staring out the front door, just waiting for him to come in.
And they're saying, "I'm not going in there."
Wait a minute.
How did you get out?
So, the chaotic scene showed the husky named Titan, of course, staring out the glass portion of the entrance door. The shelter's director, Charles Spiegel, was taking the picture, and you could see him in the reflection. So he gets there, and he goes, "You know what? I'm just going to have to take a smoke break right now." You could actually see the cigarette in his mouth. He's like, I need a break already. I ain't even walked in the door.
I ain't even at work yet, and I need a break already. Yeah, I got to figure this out. What's up?
He said apparently Titan Jiggle opened the door on his own and freed the other 2 dogs. It's almost impossible, almost being the key word there, Mr. Spiegel.
That never happens here.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Oh, man. But fortunately for the Titan and the shelter's material possessions, he didn't have to stay there for long because publicity from the viral Facebook post led to his speedy adoption by an experienced Husky family, and the other 2 dogs were also adopted recently as well. So a fine end to the story, but an absolute chaotic experience at the Carver County Animal Shelter.
That's wild.
And wacky.
And wacky.
All right. That's going to do it for today's show. We appreciate you guys being here. We are going to be back tomorrow at 2 o'clock. It'll be a lot of fun, so come back with us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint in the Lee Company studio.